Hello, and this is a land lesson for sit on top kayak. First of all, let me explain how our buoyancy aids work. There's 8 points of adjustment. First of all, arms go through the holes in the side and make sure the straps sit nice and comfortable across your shoulders and top of your chest. Then go down to the bottom of the buoyancy aid. There's a clip, make sure that clicks in, and then from there work your way up to the zip. Once you're here, you can now adjust the straps, starting from the bottom, and then that leaves the 2 straps at the top. And just make sure they're nice and tight and comfortable. The buoyancy aid should be tight enough that it's not going to come above your head, but should still allow you to move and paddle through the water easily and breathe without any restrictions. Well, this is the kayak itself. It is a sit-on-top kayak, so it's designed to be simply sat on top of. Don't be tempted when you're in the kayak to tie yourself. They're designed that if you do fall out, you fall out into the water and not underneath the kayak. Working down the kayak to the front, when you come back into shore or land at any point, you can obviously paddle in up to the beach, and then once you're out the kayak, you can use the handle at the front to pull the kayak up and out of the water to safety. This is the kayak paddle. As you can see, there are 2 ends that are not symmetrical. When holding the kayak paddle, you want to be holding it so the writing beach is on your left hand side. I would usually go for about a shoulder width grip, whatever's comfortable within that sort of range. When sitting in the kayak, you want to make sure that your back is nice and tight and comfortable against the backrest, and that your feet are at a suitable position on the footrest in front of you. When starting to paddle forwards, you want to take a big stretch with the paddle down to your toes and keeping the paddle as vertical as possible and pulling towards your hips, and then alternating on the opposite side. Be careful when you are paddling. The paddle itself, as I said, is not symmetrical, so you will have to twist the paddle when you alternate sides. Try and make sure the paddle itself stays at 90 degrees of the craft to get the most efficient stroke. To stop, it's just a case of putting the paddle down one side and holding the paddle strong in the water, or reversing the stroke and pushing from hips to toes. To turn left in the kayak, you want to do a wide stroke with down the right hand side of the body, keeping the paddle away from the craft, or you can also put the paddle down, hold a strong position down the left hand side, which will slow you down and pull the craft round, obviously vice versa to turn right. If the kayak does capsize, there are ropes along both sides of the kayak will help you get it turned over, and they will also help you pull yourself back into the kayak. But with the simple process of grabbing a paddle in one hand and not 2, reaching over the kayak, holding onto the rope and pulling yourself up and wiggling down to about the hips, and once your hips are halfway across the kayak, you then want to swivel your legs round. When out in the water, always be mindful of the weather conditions and the wind and how this may affect you and your craft. Also remember that you won't always be the only person out in the water. There may be other kayaks, canoes, paddleboards, pedalos and motorised craft. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask before setting off.